Okay. So just for the recording purposes, we're just going to go back a couple of slides. This is an introduction to our AmeriTeam property management. AMP is agent managed portfolio. This is an opportunity for agents to actually, oops, hello. Here we go. To build their own portfolio of investors, bringing on landlords. We have Ramon Morales, who is our Director of Property Management, presenting this. And we're discussing right now some of the very basics that we want to get into. So we've covered, we want to get into the crucial factors that we need to address, and including the fact that right now we're not doing short-term rentals. So I think that's in a nutshell what we've covered so far. Do's and don'ts. Communicating is going to be the key factor. Providing contact information for owners, making sure we get all the right information as quickly as possible, and making sure it's accurate. Managing a portfolio is challenging enough as a property manager, and then making sure that information is collected. So a lot of times when we're working as an agent, when we're working with an investor anyway, we have our hands on all of that because we're obtaining that through the course of closing out the deal. But just so we're clear, it doesn't mean that you have, this is a person that you've closed a deal with, you have an investor, you help them buy a house, they want to find a renter, you bring them on into your portfolio and offer them property management services. It could be just you have a relationship with somebody who owns properties, and you can actually recruit them and make them part of, bring them on board to AmeriTeam property management. So it doesn't have to be a real estate deal that you closed. You can actually, if you wanted to build your portfolio, you could actively build a portfolio of landlords any way you legally see fit. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right, picking up where we left off, more do's and don'ts.
All right, don'ts.
Oh, somebody just kicked me out. Are we in? Everybody's still good? All right, we're still good. All right, go ahead.
All right, don'ts. Don't violate fair housing, local estate regulations. There's a lot happening right now, especially here in Orange County, and I'll touch on those very briefly. Fair housing is fair housing. That's the big one. Please, please, please do not violate fair housing. It can get everybody in this room into a lot of hot water. Orange County, they just passed rent ordinance. I'm not talking about yesterday's election. That's a different story, but they passed several pieces of legislation over the summer aimed at trying to temper off some of these rate hikes. So please make sure that you're not violating any of those local regulations.
So if you decide, or when you decide to choose to join the program, there will be training.
Yes.
So there'll be more of these sessions where we'll actually go over in detail many of these things. Mm-hmm. If you're dealing with rentals at all, you should be absolutely aware of fair housing rules and regs. And if you have any questions, Ramon is often here as a resource for anybody to call and ask questions specifically.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just like general real estate, don't provide any false or misleading information. All of our advertisements, all of our listings, all of our marketing materials, they should be as accurate as possible. We all, as realtors, we know that. And don't make promises or guarantees that cannot be reasonably fulfilled. In the property management world, there's a lot of moving parts, right? So every once in a while, stuff happens, right? But don't tell our owners, don't tell your owners, hey, we can have your property occupied in a week if you're not 100% sure. Stuff happens all the time. And the last thing we want is to make promises or guarantees of rental amounts, time, tenancy, any of those things of that nature, and then we all have to turn around and ask for it later on.
Exactly.
They might want reimbursement for unrented times.
I've had questions like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Fair housing. This is the big one. 5 days after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, the federal government responded by passing the Civil Rights Act of 1968. Basically, this is the holy grail when it comes to property management. Basically, don't discriminate on the basis of national origin, race, sex, handicap, or familial status. There's been other additions onto that, of course, with LGBTQ, ABCD, all of that. So we have to be very, very careful.
Oh, yes.
This is the reason we got to be really careful. I don't even have to say anything here. They take this extremely seriously. First fine, maximum fine for your first violation can be up to $16,000. Now I can guarantee you that if you get fined $16,000, Alan and Alan are gonna come calling you trying to figure out what happened, right? The second violation, within 5 years, 37 fine. And then any violation within 5 years after that, you can get fined up to $75,000.
Here's the other thing too, in dealing with, oh, hold on, we have a question. Yes, Claudia, you can.
Hi.
Go ahead.
So my question is, I have a friend that does property management, and someone was trying to sue her because he called and told her that he had a record, and he told the person that she has to talk with the owner. But by the time she talked to the owner, the place was rented out, and he was suing her for discrimination. But he has like a felony record. It had nothing to do with race and stuff like that. Is that like?
I can actually speak to that because we had a couple of years ago, we actually had an agent who in a text was asked that question. If I have a record, a criminal record, will that keep me from renting the home? And he answered yes. And he got sued for that 16,000. So here's the thing, and it's subtle because a large percentage of criminals in key areas, it's not everywhere, it's in key areas, are of a different race, color, or creed. It can actually be considered racism to require that. So now I would talk to a lawyer in regards to, she answered, let me talk to the owner, because she didn't say yes or no. But that is, that's valid. Yes, if you discriminate based on criminal record, it can be actually considered discrimination, and the lawsuit will be won by the plaintiff. 100%. Keep that in mind. You'll also find in many agents here will discover that even in putting in listings, just for regular homes, if you've ever described your appliances as white or black, it gets kicked back. Even MLS is very cautious on its terminology. So just know that it's not black and white. It's not just you just outrightly say something or do something that offends somebody. It can be very subtle. So you just have to keep those things in mind.
And we'll get into this a little bit more in training. That's an excellent question. We'll get into a little bit more in training, but what I always say, and what I always explain to my owners and my applicants, we look at a big picture. There's where we won't necessarily disqualify you for having a record or for having anything on your background. We're gonna take all the information from your application. We're gonna process it, and we're gonna present it to the owner.
That's it. All of it.
That's it.
Okay.
Next slide. Now, to harp on that a little bit more, it's not just an ethical violation. It can cost you and AmeriTeam a lot of money. And this is 100% no warnings. I promise you, with 100% certainty that I can guarantee you that in my time here, I've been shot. Not just in showings, but also in phone calls, text messages, and emails. I have been shot. I know
I'll
that.
ask you questions, and if you say yes, that'll.
If you answer the question the wrong way,
Questions along the lines of,
Alan, did you happen to mention the case with Delroy?
yes, I didn't mention names, but I mentioned the case.
You did.
Yeah.
yeah, I have been shot. I can guarantee you that. But ultimately, as long as we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, you have nothing to worry.
And by the way, by being shocked, it's not like you have somebody from the association that's assigned going around making phone numbers trying to catch people. These are people who try to do lawsuits for a living.
Mhm.
That's how they make their money. They sit around on their own accord. They find somebody who breaks the law. They report them, and they have an attorney friend, and that's all they do day in, day out.
A few years ago, I had, there was a couple of law firms going around suing people over their websites.
Yeah, we got nailed on that too.
Yeah.
But, we took care of it. So, and that was actually flooded all of Florida because, that was something too. And this isn't to dissuade people from getting involved. And we'll get more into why property management, and building a portfolio could be very advantageous. It's just to keep your senses heightened. You've got to actually kind of go beyond common sense. So it's common sense to us. Sometimes you'll see something and go, that doesn't make any sense, but the fact is the fact. So we've got to be ultra sensitive.
So, as part of the agent managed portfolio, this will be your role. You will be the contact for the owner. Anything that goes to the owner as far as requests for payment, any kind of financial issues that we need to sort out with the owner, you will be the contact there. Work orders, if we ever need to get approval for a work order, you guys will be the contact there. Again, obtaining the information pertinent to the property from the owner, that's your job. All the HOA information, all of that good stuff, that's going to be your responsibility to collect. Now, even though AmeriTeam will take care of the rest, you'll still be expected to collaborate. If we need anything from you as far as setting up showings, assisting with the listing, as far as an open house, helping out with the work order, as far as communication or collaboration, yeah, we may occasionally call on you, and yeah, it will be required for you to help out on that end as well. As far as what AmeriTeam will do, we're going to take care of all the listings, all the marketing. On the listing, you guys should be agent 2 on the MLS when we go to the MLS. A lot of times, I will be perfectly honest, we don't even have to. We currently have a list of about 100 and some odd renters that are looking for properties. And when we publish properties to our website, we oftentimes have guest cards and applications and inquiries on our website before we even get the chance to go to the MLS. So there's a good chance we might not even need to go to the MLS, but if we do, you guys will be agent 2. We'll take care of the applications, processing all of that good stuff. As we process all of the application, since you're the owner contact, once we're done processing the applications, we're going to present it all to you, and then you can go ahead and speak to the owner. There's often times where we have multiple applications. What we do there, we present all the applications at once and we make a recommendation to the owner. We let the owner decide. Be very careful in not disclosing sensitive information from the application to your owner. Even though they are going to be the tenant for the owner's property, we still want to protect their sensitive information. As
Is
far
it
as
on the app? Does he get a copy of the application? The owners?
No.
No.
we'll keep it on file. And if they have questions, then of course we're always willing and happy to have a conversation. But as far as not sharing that sensitive information, no, we We'll take care of all the finances, all the accounting, we'll pay all the work orders, we'll pay all our vendors. We'll pay our owners, your owners. We'll also keep the contact with the tenant. We want to make it as hands-off for our owners as possible. So here's the required documents that I think we're gonna get into here shortly. In order for you to get involved, we will need to have a signed agreement, a APM AMP signed agreement. We will have to have a signed management agreement from your owner. And we will have to have an owner's informational questionnaire filled out. With that information, we should have everything or close to everything that we need. Do you have any questions?
Let's say you have a disabled person. A lot of properties aren't handicap friendly. Now, are you required to, if they want to get the property, you required to change things in the property?
It's a gray area. I would side on, I would lean towards yes. Because that can turn into, again, a fair housing violation. But it all has to be reasonable as well. Like, we're not gonna install a lift to take a person in a wheelchair from the first floor to the second. Now, if we need to build a ramp or something like that, yeah, the owner may be required to do so. That's a case by case basis.
Or change the bathroom and get a wheelchair through the door or something?
Possibly.
Well, see, that's case by case, because is it reasonable to enlarge a doorway, because that's construction? But it would be reasonable to have bars, put in the shower to hold on to, things like that. Okay, software.
The software we use is very simple. I touched on Appfolio. It's everything property management. You guys will have your own specific portfolios in Appfolio. So you'll have direct access to your own properties and you'll be able to see everything that's going on Appfolio. You'll have access to all the work orders. You'll have access to your owner's information on Appfolio that you can make sure it stays updated. Google Drive, it's the best place for us to store all of our information. Now we will store all of our leases and all of our contracts on Appfolio as well, but we also want to make sure that we back it up on Google Drive. You guys will each have your own folders on Google Drive where you can keep that all organized and set to go.
And again, we have classes and training on all of this.
Yep. All right. So here is the participation agreement. I'm not going to run through every single line, but I'll touch on the key points. As far as we expect you to abide by every single one of these points. It's very important, especially as we grow, that we can all stay on the same page as far as managing the portfolio. So
Most of these points cover what we already talked about.
yeah, we touched on the majority of it.
The thing that I want to touch on, and this is where we get into, well, let's just face it, what's in it for me, right? As a real estate agent, what's the advantage to building a portfolio? So let's just look at bullet number 1. So as you build your portfolio, what this program offers you is residual income. So for the first 5 tenants, doors, landlords that you bring on board, we refer to them as doors. So for the first 5 properties, doors that you bring on, you'll get a 20% share of the monthly management agreement. So let's just use, for example, we get a house rented, you bring them on, it's $1,800 a month. That's going to result in roughly $32. So you're going to be roughly, if you have 5 properties that you bring on board with that split, you're looking at roughly $150, $160 every month residual. So $162. Alan and I were working out the math this morning. We were reviewing everything. $1,800. We charge 9% standard rate for rental services. So $162 would be that 9%. And then from that, you would get 30% of that. Sorry, 20% of that on the first 5 homes. After you broke 5, your 6th home through the 15th, your next 10 homes will be, you get 25% share. And then anything over that, you'll actually get a 30% share. So basically, if you had in your pocket right now, you could bring on, let's say over the next couple of months, you bring on 20 homes with this, with an average of $1,800 a month, and some are much more. You'd be looking at just shy of $10,000 a year in extra annual income. That's what that would work out to. Just talking about averages, but we're talking about residual income. You're talking about building a portfolio. AmeriTeam Realty is doing all the heavy lifting. You're managing the relationship and making sure that the landlord the property owner is happy, and for that you get a nice residual income. So build up a portfolio. It's limitless. You can bring on as many as you want. Build up a portfolio, and you're building residual income month in and month out.
Name of the game. That's why we invented this to begin with. As realtors, we all know residual income is something that we're all kind of after.
Well, right, because we, as a realtor, we have to deal with the slow times.
Right.
We're coming in, and so if we've built up a portfolio over a year or so, and we've got 20 properties or more, then we know that that's money that we can count on,
right,
on a regular basis. So that's just any questions on any of that? Yes, go ahead.
This is independent of the fee we'd make for the listing, right?
There's no fee for the listing. If you brought a landlord to the door, he'd be yours, and you'd be managing that. It's your portfolio, so there's no fee.
Well, if you sold them a listing, you'd get the commission, and then you would refer them to the property management, you get a percentage of the rent, or the fees for the rent.
So basically, if you bring a landlord on board and we get the contract, the listing, we do charge an onboarding fee. That's for us, but you get your split. Now, if you're just referring somebody and walking away, I think whatever, we give like a $300 referral fee, but you don't get both. If you're going to refer somebody and give it to him and we're going to take care of it, you get a referral fee. If you're going to build your own portfolio and bring them on board, you get a residual. So you don't get both.
Well, what about, like, say I have one person that just wants to rent at their house. I had one earlier this year. They ended up hiring somebody that spoke Mandarin and so did me, but I was going to list their home, and it was going to be like the fee would be if the rent would be 1 month.
So they want to be their own landlord, basically.
Right.
So for somebody who wants to be their own landlord, and they're going to list it, then that's separate.
Right.
So if you're
going to say they just wanted me to find a tenant, like.
Oh, they just wanted you to find a rent.
Yeah.
And then you would could I lease it out and through the listing, and then you take over? Like, what's the interrelation?
No, basically we would list it. So we bring it on board. You would bring them into AmeriTeam Property Management. We would get it listed, as he mentioned earlier in the slide. You'd be agent number 2 on that listing, and we would get it listed. But from that point forward, you're getting residual income for as long as we manage that property.
Or the 300.
Or the 300 for the referral fee. Or they list it, they get their own tenant, and they manage it. We get a lot of that. There's a lot of agents in AmeriTeam that write lease agreements. That you use the standard FAR bar. The owner gets a They only get, the owner gets a tenant in there and they have to manage their own escrow account, make sure that security deposits put in a separate account, handled properly. They have to manage their own maintenance calls. If the toilet clogs at 2 o'clock in the morning, they're getting the phone call. And that's, if some people want to do that, they want to do that. So this isn't that.
What about somebody who, okay. Let's say, well, a lot of these guys wouldn't involve necessarily listing anyway. Somebody's already doing their own.
Correct.
I want to switch over.
Now, if you wanted to bring them over, we would bring them over and work out the fees and put everything together and get them under a lease agreement. And then we would add them to your portfolio.
Are the fees the same? If somebody's already their own landlord, just doesn't want to do it anymore?
The fees are the fees. We charge 9%.
Okay.
It's just a standard rate. You'll find that very competitive.
Now, don't want to harp on all of these, but I will say the third bullet point here, we will have periodic meetings and trainings. It's not like we're just gonna throw you to the sharks and, you know, see you next year. You will have access to me, and of course, you know, Alan and Alan are always here and available. But we will have periodic classes and meetings and trainings. And as far as we have those, I really appreciate it. You guys could attend.
It'll be a requirement.
Yeah.
Whether we do it live or Zoom, the trainings, it will be important because we're going to be covering how to use Appfolio. We're going to be covering, you know, details on fair housing and having more detailed conversation to make sure that, you know, all of you understand what to say and what not to say in a conversation, promises that you shouldn't make, and that you get a clear idea of how the system works so that when you're talking to a potential landlord, you can talk intelligently. So we want to give you all the tools you need, obviously, to be a success with this.
Right.
That's.
Also want to touch on, you guys will be the first point of contact for the owner, but from time to time, third bullet point from the bottom, contact may be necessary. We may need to reach out to the owner. We're not trying to go behind your back. We're not trying to, you know, push you guys out. You're split. Your money will always be protected. It's important to me. That's why I came up with this, because as a fellow realtor, I know how hard we all work, right? So from time to time, we may need to reach out to your owner. Rest assured, you guys will be fine.
And this is just page 2.
Yeah, page 2 of the agreement. Agent agrees that any vendor used to complete work orders on properties are to be licensed and insured. Now, we have our own vendors. We have our own list of approved vendors. If for any reason you or your owners have a vendor or a couple of vendors that you prefer to work with, it's fine. Let's get them on the list. Let's get them, let's make sure we have their information. Let's make sure that they're licensed and insured, and we can add them onto Appfolio and make sure that we keep them in the fold.
You are going to work with landlords. Hey, I got my own guy.
Yes.
And if they have their own guy,
Probably not nice.
yeah, maybe, right? Because he gives me a really good price. Well, he does that for a reason. And you know what? There are certain guidelines that we have to stay within. That's the facts. We can't curtail what we do per owner. When we started changing over and becoming more rigid on these policies, we did lose a few landlords. We did, but others actually appreciated it, and we've since brought on more. So we've actually been growing. It's been good.
And to touch on that a little bit more, you know, we have it's still an ongoing fight that I have. I won't say a fight, but it's still an ongoing conversation that I have with some of my owners. Let's put ourselves in their position. They've worked their butts off for the most part. They got their investment property, and they want to do everything they can to protect it, right? So a lot of our owners are hands-on, and you'll find that a lot of your owners are they're going to want to be hands-on, right? So I had one specifically last month, right after the hurricane hit. We had a work order on his property. He was calling, trying to find out why he was charged for the work order. I had to explain to him, hey, we got hit with a bunch of work orders after the hurricane. And our policy at AmeriTeam, if it's less than 200 hours, we're gonna fix it without getting the owner's approval. If it's more than 200 hours, then at that point, unless it's an emergency like an AC heater or something like that, then we'll try and reach out to the owner. In cases of emergency like post-hurricane, we might not do that. Simply because we had an influx of work orders. And I had an owner that's called me and told me, even if it's $1, Ramon, I need you to call me to get approval. And I had to have a conversation with him. Hey, we appreciate your business. We appreciate your partnership. Not gonna happen. And he, at the end of the conversation, at the beginning, he wasn't happy. But towards the end of the conversation, he appreciated what we do. So that's our policy. We'll talk about that more. It's gonna be something you probably talk about extensively with your owners. So it's just something that, as Alan said, we want to make sure that we're on the same page about. Attorney, same thing. We have our own attorney, evict.com. That's Heist, Weiss and Wolf. They do all of our paperwork. They do all of our leases, contracts, 3-day notices, anything that.
So we're not doing FAR bar leases, just so you're, it's not like pulling a FAR bar lease out of Dalup and doing that. We're not doing that, not property management. So just be aware of that.
We have attorneys that give us bulletproof paperwork so that in the event something happens, we're taken care of. And we want to make sure that we extend that protection to your owners.
And to you.
This is the owner information packet. As I said, all of this information is extremely useful, believe me. I have an owner who gave me a property the other day with none of this filled out. And I had to call her and I had to tell her, look, tenants are moving in next week. They need this information right away. It is super important and it will make your life so much easier. Excuse me, to have this filled out by your owner at the same time you have the property management contract filled out. So when we send out the property management contract, I will send this exact form. You can probably skip over to the next slide. It's the second page. I will send them this exact form so that they can fill out. Please, please, please make sure that they fill it out. A lot of them think it's not necessary, super necessary to us. And then, like I said, all of this information, the direct deposit information. I know we have a couple of owners that at the beginning, they got a little finicky with, of course, giving out the banking information. We keep it safe at all times. I shred documents, whatever we don't need, we shred. All of this stuff is kept extremely secure. This is how we pay our owners. So you have to stress that to them. We need their routing account number. No exception unless they want to get a check 30 to 60 days later after we collect that. All right. This is Google Drive. This is how it's going to look when you first log on. Sample agent, it will be there just so that you guys can see it. But you'll have your own folder with your own name. And you can go ahead and click, and that's where you'll store all of your information. And this is the way it's going to be organized. So agent docs will be anything that pertains to you specifically. So your agent managed agreement, any other pertinent information that we need for you specifically, that's where I want you guys to store it in agent docs.
Right, including. Well, yeah, we won't have their bank account information, just be, because you will be getting residual income, we'll be auto depositing their money as well, so.
Right.
All right.
Last name, first name, that will be your owners. So your owners should be organized by their own proper folders in a last name, first name category.
And this is just storage because all of this is going to be up on AppFolio, right? You're going to be able to click and see information instantaneously.
Right. And then this will be exactly how it's organized. So as your owners bring in more and more properties, you just keep organizing more folders for them. Please don't have it to where you have a Google Drive with 1,000 documents that you expect anybody to sort through. Come on in.
Almost. We're just wrapping up.
And this is the way each property folder will look. Anything that's pertaining to the current tenancy will go in current. Media, any photographs, video walkthroughs, anything that pertains to the property as far as media goes.
So things you might have done for the listing.
Right.
Yeah.
Past, anything regarding past tenancy or past ownership should go in there. And then supporting docs, again, any information pertinent to the property itself, as far as utilities, that owner informational questionnaire, you can put that in there. That's all I got. So my information is right here. Feel free to reach out to me as you need. My door is always open. Free time. Any questions?
Any final questions?
Will it be possible to get a copy of the lease that AmeriTeam uses?
So a copy of the lease?
Please. I could probably get
Yeah, well, it's not going to be, the lease will be between the landlord and the tenant. We have that, but we also have the lease agreement, which will be between property management and the landlord.
Right.
And so for anyone who signs the paperwork and joins, then I don't have a problem sharing that.
Sure.
Once we've gone through the training and stuff like that, yeah, we'll absolutely share all that.
I have a question.
They'd be
Hold on.
interested, but that's the first question they're gonna have.
Yeah,
Don't you guys use Harry Heist to prepare your leases?
Heist.
Heist
Yes.
Weiss, he's
Heist
got
Weiss
he has a
and-
sample on his
Yeah.
evict.com.
Okay.
You can print one out. There.
But it's going to be, it's also, they're also going to be concerned with their agreement between AmeriTeam Property Management too. And just to note for owners, for people who own multiple properties, we do supply a little bit of a discount. So if you have a single owner with multiple properties, then we can actually, we can negotiate terms
What
sometimes.
is the upfront fee to a owner?
Okay, we're wrapping up.
I have a question.
Oh, Claudia.
Yeah, so if I have properties, would it be worth it for me to do that with AmeriTeam or no, since I'm already an agent?
To manage your own property?
No, to put it on AmeriTeam if I don't want to manage it.
Well, it's a huge advantage because it's a time saver, right? So if you put it under property management, what we'll do is different. Yeah,
Okay.
you can access this, but any agent who brings on their own property, we already give them a discount. So
Oh,
you'll get a discount, but there still will be, you'll be paying the monthly fee instead of collecting one. It'll just be a lesser fee.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're not gonna pay you a residual on your own property.
Yeah, that's what, I was wondering how it would work.
But we can bring it on, discuss a lesser amount. We could give you a discount. So we can certainly talk about that.
Now, you say when you
Okay,
first get a property, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Claudia, make sure you reach out to me, send me an email or shoot me a text. I'd love to sit down with you and talk to you more, me and Evan.
Okay, will do.
Perfect.
What is the upfront fee when you first get a property to the landlord or to the owner?
You're talking about the lease fee?
Yeah.
So we'll touch on that more in training. We have a tiered fee structure.
Because it depends on the size of the house and the amount of the rent.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so our friends from Home Partners are here. So don't go away. I am going to stop recording though for this session. And